Hello my friends, I'm Rich Larson and I'm the IRC Tire Guy. Today we'll be talking a not so secret technique to holding traction in those technical situations. Now, of course, an IRC tire will definitely make a difference, but your tire is only as good as your technique. Although the technique we'll be breaking down is common knowledge to a lot of riders, most don't realize that I'm using a variation of this technique in nearly all of my riding. We're going to draw a lot of parallels to other techniques in today's episode, so be ready for that. Today, we'll be talking about holding pressure. Holding pressure is a trials term. In its most basic form, holding pressure is the ability to transfer your body weight to hold efficient traction to the rear tire. This assists in floating or carrying your front tire high off a single obstacle or from one obstacle to the next. Holding pressure is most commonly used when you have two obstacles back to back that are too close together to execute separately. So instead, you tie the two separate obstacles together by carrying your front tire from the first obstacle to the next. It's also commonly used on really large obstacles or obstacles that you aren't sure what is on the other side. A lot of times in hard enduro, you'll be hitting obstacles blind or larger features where you plain can't let that front tire drop or you'll be over the bars. This technique isn't just for single obstacles or close quarter situations. And this is where most riders don't realize I'm constantly using a variation of the holding pressure technique. Whether I'm in a boulder field, a slick rocky canyon, an off camber, or even side hill situations, I'm using the holding pressure technique. So let's understand how we execute holding pressure at all times. Let's start with your clutch control. I've spoke over and over of these simple clutch control drills like rolling back and forth on an incline. This is that first step in your clutch control ability when it comes to the holding pressure technique. So make sure you've mastered all your clutch control drills first before moving on. You can find all those techniques right here. Now, there are a few drills that we can break down to help you get more comfortable with your holding pressure skill. We'll start with a stationary drill. Again, this is a lot about your clutch control skill. Every clutch control technique becomes more and more challenging, more and more refined in your ability to find and dance around that engagement and pressure point with your clutch. With this drill, we use a slight uphill grade and a smaller 6 to 10 inch rock to stop our machine from moving forward up the hill. We're placing our rear tire against the rock and again throwing our hips and weight back and slipping the clutch with low controlled throttle to assist our front tire into the air. Now, the goal is to find that perfect point of slip with the clutch and proper throttle to hold the bike in a wheelie position. Obviously, the further back or closer to the balance point you get, the easier this drill becomes. The goal is to keep the bike just below that balance point. The feeling should be of fighting gravity with your body position and clutch slip. The point of this drill is to understand the stationary engagement point of your clutch. This stationary wheelie that we're doing is very similar to what I'm doing in slick technical situations to hold traction over the rear tire. A similar addition to this stationary wheelie drill is to do it standing up with one foot off the peg while moving up an incline. We're focused on a slow pace and weighting the peg heavily with our planted foot. Practice this each way with the opposing foot off the peg. The reason we practice this drill is notice the similarities to the technique I use when dabbing in slick technical situations. The goal is to keep the traction down, my momentum up, and the machine moving forward. In trials, the goal is no dabs, but in hard enduro, the goal is to keep moving forward in any way possible. Notice the same technique on steep side hills. I'm almost floating my front tire high above where my rear tire is driving forward. I'm weighting the outside peg, holding my hips and weight back, as well as leaning the bike out towards the downhill. I'm almost wheeling on the side hill. This is that holding pressure technique, but in side hill situations. One thing in common with all variations to the holding pressure technique is at least one foot is weighting the pegs. The only way to hold pressure is always weighting your pegs. Here's a great way to explain the efficiency of being on your pegs. With the bike off, start with your body all the way to the back of the seat. Then, with both feet off the pegs and plant it on the ground, move as far forward as you can on your seat. Now, with one foot on the peg, repeat moving from as far back to as far forward on the seat as possible. Notice the difference in efficiency and your ability to move your weight back and forth on the machine. It's obviously way easier with one foot on the peg, but if that's not convincing enough, try doing the exact same two differing drills while moving. If you're moving with both feet off your pegs, it's nearly impossible to efficiently adjust your position on your machine. Even with only one foot on the peg, your ability to move back and forth in relation to what your bike is doing is greatly increased. And really, that's all you're ever doing, reacting to everything your machine is doing. Notice in slicker situations, especially when I have an obstacle in front of both my front and rear tires, this is a common situation where I see many riders with both feet off the pegs spinning their tires. A lot of guys will try and almost seat bounce their bikes forward, which really is setting them up for a wheelie over or tip over, mostly because of your inability to move on the machine with both feet off the pegs. Using the holding pressure technique similar to the uphill wheelie practice we showed earlier is exactly what I'm using to get out of these situations. I'm focusing on floating my front tire over all the obstacles in front of me. I want that light front tire that's skipping from one step to the other, not driving into them. Now, the main way to learn and understand the holding pressure technique is to practice it in its traditional form on a single obstacle or tight quarter situation. The main goal in this holding pressure technique is to understand a modification in your double blip technique to allow you to carry your front tire high. The ability to control how you land after the double blip is the next level benchmark that we're looking for. Simply put, being able to ride over a rock is one thing, but being able to control exactly the height of your front tire and even landing rear tire first after the obstacle is a step in the right direction in the mastery of your holding pressure technique. Notice when focusing on landing rear tire first over an obstacle, my exaggerated body position. My chest is almost parallel with my seat. My hips are back over the rear tire. This is that efficient body position we talk about all the time in any motorcycle discipline. A complete understanding of how to react via body position to what your machine is doing. You'll see this body position in almost any of my riding. Practicing and understanding the holding pressure technique is a great way to master your body position. And practicing your body position is a great way to master your holding pressure technique. I hope these breakdowns are helping you guys improve on your hard enduro and trail skills. I hope you guys are enjoying the channel, and if you are, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as well as follow us on Instagram at IRC Moto and my personal Instagram page at RichLarson511. And until next time, keep shredding.